Hey, it's Ambrose. Today I'm going to be sharing a tip that's really helped me on my improv and composition journey. I think this is something that early in my journey I kind of forgot to do a lot. When I first was getting into music theory, I wanted to build these giant chords. I would be like, all right, I want a G7, flat 9, flat 13, sharp 11, sharp 14. And I'd be like, all of my chords have to be this complex for me to make good music. But something my teachers reminded me a lot of is, sometimes simple wins the race. You don't have to have these really complex 7-note chords to make decent music. A lot of times, you only need, say 3 or 4 voices. So a practice strategy I like to use is I'd pare down all of my chords to just 3 voices. I'd be like, okay, what can I do with just 3 voices instead of like my 7 billion voicing dominant chord that I had earlier? I would scratch that and I would be like, okay, let's start simple. 3 voices, C major. That's nice. And then you might be like, okay, what if I take that and I move the second voice down to the bass? Then you've got a very open sound. What if I take that and I move the top voice down to the bass? You've got yet another sound. And then you start to realize, even with these just 3 voices, there's infinite, there's a ton of variations just on a single chord. On a simple C major, there's so much you can do. When you use these giant voicings, there's a lot that you lose in return. If you're improvising, trying to think of all of the extensions that you're putting on your chord uses a lot of brain power that you could be using to put into other places. Say, what dynamic do I want to play the chord? Do I want it nice and quiet? Do I want it really jarring and loud? Like I said earlier, what inversion do I want? What note do I want in the bass? When you play these big extended chords, you have a tendency to, use a lot of root position chords with the fundamental tone in the bass always. But if you're using smaller voicings, it's a lot easier to think about voice leading and what voice you'd actually like in the bass for a particular instance. Like, let's take a G7 dominant chord, for example. Not the crazy one I did earlier, but just a simple 3-note voicing. Root 3rd and 7th. Normally, you have the root in the bass like that. You resolve it something like this. But you could be like, okay, well, I want the 3rd in the bass. And you get some, simple voice leading, and then you can kind of continue along that path. You can be like, oh, that's cool. Well, why don't I continue moving the 2 outer voices inwards? And then you can build some really beautiful and simple melodies that way. Yeah. Playing around with your voice leading, with those 3 voices, can really open up a lot of things. Kind of get you out of the mindset of using these giant chords all of the time. I'm not saying, that using these giant chords all the time is a bad thing. I'm just saying that, if you pare it down and keep it simple, sometimes when you come to your big giant chord in your improv or your composition, it'll have a lot more impact if you're not just spamming it all over the place. At least in my opinion. It depends on your musical tastes and everything. But regardless, I think it's a good exercise for anyone to try and figure out, you know, what do I really want to hear in my music? So yeah, there's also stuff like pedal points, keep the bottom voice the same and move the top one around. A lot of things you can play around with just with 3 voices. I'm gonna give a little demonstration of how I would practice it. I would just do my little 3 voice improvisation. So I'll do one of those now for you. See, 3 voices most of the time, I might have broken protocol here and there, but when you're improvising, it's kind of hard to stick to any rule 100% of the time. As long as you're giving it a good effort, I think, that's what matters in the end. But decent music from very simple chords and voicings. And I think, it'll help you just conserve brain power sometimes, to remind yourself that I don't need these gigantic chords all of the time to create decent music. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this video, consider dropping a like or subscribing. There's going to be a lot more content like this coming your way. Trying to get more into tips and tricks that I've picked up over my years of playing. I hope they can help you a little bit on your music journey. And anyway, this has been Ambrose, and thanks for watching. See ya.